guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I am going to be talking about some of the books that are coming out in April that I'm super excited to read. And there's quite a few. I was going to make one for March, but to be honest there were a couple that I wanted to read that I knew about, but only about two, and I didn't feel like that was enough to make a whole video on. So I kind of just skipped March, but April there are about 4 or 5 books that I know are coming out that I'm super excited to read. Most of these are a part of already kind of established series, so if you haven't read the series prior, I would probably recommend reading that before these books come out. I think maybe like one of them is standalone, but regardless, if you guys have read these series, I'm sure you're also looking for these books to come out this month. I was about to say this year, this month. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're having a good day. Please feel free to comment down below what you guys are looking forward to reading in April. I'm always loving to see what you guys mention, what books you recommend, what you're most excited for, all of that, and let's get into discussing these books. The first book we have is Foolish Puckboy by Finley and Saxon James, and this is book 4 in their Puckboy series, which is a hockey based series set in the NHL, so more professional hockey, and they do have a college based series as well, which I have spoken about before, and that is about I think 5 or 6 books, and they're all based in college hockey. And then they came out with this one which is based in the NHL and features different couples with different kind of tropes going on each book, which has been super exciting to read about. And I actually thought the 3rd book was the final book, but it's not. The 4th book is coming out in April. I'm very excited. The cover for this is beautiful, and this is also on Alex, not Alex with an X, Alex with a K, but I'm just going to pronounce it Alex because that's just what flows naturally for me. But it's based on him, which we did meet him in the last book, and he is newly single. If I'm remembering correctly, it's been a while since I read the last book, but I believe he's newly single, he's bi, and he's kind of discovering his new freedom, going out a lot, sleeping with different people. And so far all the blurb says is Alex is a PR nightmare, and so I'm assuming this is probably going to be not similar to the last book, but Alex kind of creating issues and a PR manager of some sort having to try and fix that. And I assume that's where the relationship will stem from, which I'm super excited for. I mean, I've really enjoyed every book in this series. They've always been different from each other, and they're also all set in the same world, so we do get to see different characters from past books and see their relationships, which as I've mentioned is one of my favorite things. So I'm really excited to see what this book is like, see what Alex is like, get to know him more, and see who his love interest is, because I do think it will be something PR based. And if I'm remembering correctly, I feel like we've actually met his love interest maybe in the last book. I need to reread that book, but I believe we have seen a bit of him before, and I'm sure as I'm reading it I will be like, oh yes, that's what happened in the last book. But that is a hockey based book that I'm really looking forward to coming out. You could probably read these books as standalones because each story is a standalone technically, but I would recommend reading them in order because then you do see the couples from each book throughout the other books, and you might be a bit confused as to what's going on if you haven't read them. Plus they're just a really good time, and I'm sure this book will be no different to that. I love hockey books. I love these two authors when they collaborate on hockey books, so I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun. Then we have a last book in the series which I'm really sad about, and this is New Blood by L.C. Davis, and this is the 4th book in his series, which I've discussed a few times on here, kind of every time a new book is released in it. And we are following Chase and these 4 guys, and this is a MMM based story, but it is a lot of fun. Like at points it's like it's not like amazing fantasy or amazing plot lines or anything like that, but it's very entertaining, and it's definitely like over the top but in the best way, and it's very funny, and it's just kind of like a light-hearted, it is deeper as well, but like a light-hearted fantasy take, and one that has very intriguing characters, and every book has kept me very entertained, and I've read it very quickly as well. And so this is the last book in this series, and this is one you can't have read. You have to read all the other books. You can't have just read this book in the series, otherwise it's definitely not going to make sense. And as I've said before, like, I often find it hard to read series that are about just one person or one couple, and I think the interesting thing in this series is that because it is plus, you are seeing different relationships and Chase's different kind of responses and reactions to the different guys that are involved in this, and seeing those relationships form and develop. And I'm not sure if there'll be like one main end couple. Like, I'm really curious to see how it plays out, because in my mind I have an idea of who I think Chase will end up with, but I don't know if it's just going to remain the plus, like, or if it's going to end in just one couple. I'm not entirely too sure, but I assume this book will probably pick up where we left off, which was really interesting. I really enjoyed the plot for these books as it kind of developed throughout every book, and seeing just the different tropes involved and the different character development happening as well. And like I said, I feel like you will either really enjoy these books or you won't like them at all, because some of the tropes that are within this series I don't normally read, I don't normally enjoy, but somehow L.C. Davis, who's also Joel Abernathy, if you guys aren't aware, I just find his work so entertaining and funny and a good time. So without taking it too seriously, I just take them for what they are and really enjoy them. And I think this last book will be a really interesting take on how they go about solving all the shit that kind of happened in the third book, because a lot more stakes were brought in the third book, and I'm curious to see how it plays out and what the end result is. But I'm really excited for it. I'm kind of sad it's over actually, because every book has been very fun to read. I really loved the first book and the second book as well. They're probably my two favourites. I did really enjoy the third book though as well. So I don't know, all of them are pretty good, to be honest. And they are fantasy based books, so they kind of involve multiple things. Gods are the main kind of aspect of this book. Greek mythology's in there, shifters are in there, mates are in there, all different kind of tropes really within this book. So I'd probably give it a go, see if it's for you. If not, all good, but I'm super excited for this book to come out. And then we have the next book, which I'm like dreading but also needing at the same time, and this is A Shadow and a Storm by Adelaide Blaike, which is the third book in her series, which is also fantasy based. And if you guys haven't heard me rave enough about A Knife and a Blade and the second book in this series as well, I'm forgetting its name, A Siege and something, no, I always forget the second book's name, but Knife and a Blade is one of my favourite fantasy books ever. I absolutely adore this book series so much. The second book was honestly equally as good in its own way, like, and that can be hard with fantasy series, and like I've said, books that are based around the same couple I can struggle with. But this one, this series has been done so perfectly because it's been such a slow burn and such a build up, and there are so many other factors that are involved than just the romance part of these books, and that is my favorite thing about this series. And the second book is in a reading vlog actually, and that had pretty big twists and turns in it and then left on a cliffhanger. So this third book will kind of be interesting to see the repercussions of that action that ended the second book, because we have Ren and we have Matthias, and I don't want to say too much in case you haven't read it and you do want to read this series, but it'll be interesting to see how Ren takes what happened at the end of the second book and which direction he goes, because he could go for good or he could go for worse. And Ren is such an interesting character as is that I really enjoy seeing his thought process and learning more about him and his reasonings behind his actions, and just to see how he'll react to what happened I think will be really interesting, probably very emotional because I love Ren and he's dealt with a lot of shit, especially in that second book. And then same with Matthias. Like, Matthias was willing to do something and it was gonna be so happy, and then kind of got taken away from him. And so seeing him having to fight internally with his country, what his perception of right is, and then also his attraction to Ren and the fact he finally came to accept that, but now it's looking less and less like an option. And I can't rave enough about this book series. I love it so much. I think it will be another heartbreaking, sad but great addition to the series. And I know there's going to be 4 books. The 4th book will be coming out later in the year, but the 3rd book is coming out in April, and I'm like so prepared for it, but I'm also so not, because I know I will probably be shedding a few tears, which is not abnormal for me, but a few extra tears for this book series. And then we have a very new, well, it is new, it's a new series, but it's based off one of my favorite book series, the Necessary Evil series by Onley James, which I feel like I don't need to talk about because I've spoken about it so many times. And if you guys haven't read it, go read it, it's the best. And then this series is the Paladin series. Wait, no, I don't think it's the Paladin series, it's the Jericho Boys series, I think. But Paladin is book 1 in this series, which is a spin-off from the Necessary Evil series. And basically we met the characters that kind of are a part of the series in that series. So rude. So I do think if you haven't read the Necessary Evil series, I would probably recommend reading that, or at least reading the 2nd book before you try and start this series. But the premise for Paladin, which is book 1, sounds super fun. We are following, let me get their names right, Arsony, and he is a mechanic at Jericho's kind of workplace, and he's also a live streamer for this game Paladin. But then he also kills people because not in like a serial killer way, in the Jericho Boys kind of work to take down criminals in their neighborhood that are taking advantage of the vulnerable, oh god, that word did not come out well, the vulnerable people in their community. And that is kind of the premise. And like I said, you'll probably be confused if you haven't read the Necessary Evil series about the premises. So that is Arsony, which I believe we probably have met in the 2nd book. And then our other character is Eva, and basically from what I'm gathering, he doesn't know a lot about himself and what's happening around him. He has a very controlling mother, and then him and Arsony meet, and I assume it will probably happen in the very Only way James way romance happens. They'll see each other and the rest is history, which I normally don't like super quick romances, but Only James just has a way of making their connections so natural and feel so just, yeah, natural, I guess, again is another word for it, but just doesn't feel rushed and it doesn't feel forced. I don't really know how to explain it. If you guys have read Only James's books, I feel like you know what I'm talking about, but that is just kind of how her books happen, but they're still really enjoyable and I really love them. So that is Paladin. I can't wait to start this new journey with the Jericho Boys, and then I assume we'll probably also get to see some of the Necessary Evil boys, which will be super exciting and a fun kind of overlap as well. And the last book I have that I know is coming out. Oh no, it's not. Oh my god. Guys, actually, there's 2 more books. I knew I had to add one. This one is Alone and Lifeless by Nicole, and I'm going to give it a go, but I'm not sure how much I'll like it. So this is the 3rd book in her series, and I tried the first book, didn't love it too much. Tried the 2nd book, also didn't love it too much, and the main reason is because these books are very heavily based around drugs, and even though it's not necessarily a trigger for me, I still don't really enjoy reading about drug use that much. I don't mind it like once or twice in a book, but these books are very heavily based on that, and so I will see how it goes. But this kind of gives the same vibe as one of Ashley James's books, which is, I think it was the 2nd book. It kind of gives a similar vibe to that. So it does sound good, but I'll just give it a try and see if I enjoy it or if that drug use is too much for me. In this book we are following Ant and Jasper, and basically Ant was in a relationship with his girlfriend, and then they attempt to have a threesome with Jasper, and the threesome doesn't go so well, and Jasper and Ant end up getting into a physical altercation that is not having sex, it is a punch up instead. And from there they kind of just blame each other for the aftermath of everything that happens. I believe Ant and his girlfriend break up, and then Jasper and one of his friends are having a rough time after that, and everything's just kind of falling apart for them after this. But then it is one of my favourite tropes, the we share a class and we get paired up together trope. And so that is kind of what happens. They end up having this class together and having to work together, so it is kind of like dislike, slight hate to lovers, which I love, and I do like the premise of this. Like I said, sounds very similar to something I've read before by Ashley James, which I absolutely adored. So I'm gonna give it a go. Hope I enjoy it. I feel like I will, because I love that like kind of forced proximity, don't like each other trope. But then also the threesome trope is seeming to be very popular at the moment. I don't know, like a few books I've read have this same thing where like they have a threesome, but then the 2 boys end up going off and falling in love, even if they don't like each other while this is happening. Like this kind of happened for the Fans, one of Alexandra Hazard's books this happens, Ashley James's, like it's happening a few times. And I have to say, as much as I don't love the threesome aspect of it, which I've spoken about before, I do enjoy them finding each other. So I'm gonna give it a go. I'll let you guys know if I enjoy it and if I think you should read it as well, obviously. So that's Alone and Lifeless by Nicole. Nicole, not Nicole. So that's Alone and Lifeless. And then the other book that I actually didn't have on here but I saw is the 3rd book in Nicole Dykes' series, which is her Small Town series. I'm getting its name, let me get it up. This is the 3rd book in Nicole Dykes' Kenley Panthers series that she has, which I've really enjoyed all the books for this so far. It is small town football based series, and we've kind of had again like the different tropes. We've had the enemies to lovers, the friends to lovers, and then this is the 3rd book, and I believe there'll be 4 books in this, and I'm really excited to read this. So this is between Travis and Oakley, which I believe, well, we have met them in the past books, and I'm really excited to read their story. I might just read you guys out the blurb because I haven't read the blurb for this yet. Even though I remember them briefly from the past few books, I've read those books a while ago, so I am forgetting a little bit. Travis Wyatt. All I've ever wanted was to go to college. Yes, Travis is... See, it comes back to me once I start reading it. Travis is the best friend of our last main character from the 2nd book. All I've ever wanted to do was go to college and get out of Kensley. That small town is all I've ever known. I want to be free to be myself. not stifled by small minds in the football-loving town where I grew up. And then I blew my one and only chance. Yes, that's right, it got rejected. It's coming back to me now. So now I'm just stuck in small town life with the same small town people I've always known. Stuck where I don't want to be, constantly on the defense and hiding secrets about myself. Should never be the real me. I'm lost and I'm angry. But those people I was desperate to get away from, they don't stop. They insist on showing me that maybe it's not about my location, that maybe I can be free right where I am. Oakley Easton. Travis is way too uptight. I don't know why. He has everything a guy could want, a steady job and friends who would do anything for him. A great, simple, small town life. But I guess that's not what he wants. He's always been different, better, smarter, stronger. Still, I find myself wanting to show him everything he's dreamed of is within this grasp. That he doesn't have to be so serious all the time. That he can be himself wherever he is and I'll back him up. Because that's what I'm good at. On and off the field, I'll always be his defender if he'd only let me. Cute. So that is the third book in this series. Excited to give it a go. I've liked all the other books. They've been nice, kind of low angst, still like a bit of depth, but just like fun small town football based romances. And I've enjoyed the discussions around small town life as well quite a bit. So I'll definitely be giving that a go. And I believe those are the main books that are coming out in April that I'm excited for and that like I know are coming out and will be reading. As always, I'm sure there will be other books that come out that I wasn't expecting that I'll love, as that's always how it happens, and also other books that are older that I'll be reading as well. I do have a few books I have planned to read in April. I'll see how I go because I am at uni. If you guys don't know, I have spoken about it before, but uni will probably get a bit busier around April. Some assessments will be due then, so I'll hopefully be able to keep up my reading. But if not, we can always read it again later. It's fine. And yeah, that is the books coming out in April that I'm excited for. Let me know down below what you guys are looking forward to reading. I always love hearing what you guys have to say, and I will see you guys next time. I hope you have a great day, a great night, whenever it is you're reading this. I hope you're having a great reading month, reading everything you love and enjoying it. And I will see you guys next time. Have a great day. Love you lots. Hope you're doing well, and I'll see you soon. Bye.